All right, guys, so what is happening with UK house prices? That's what we're going to be taking a look at in this video. For the past year, week in, week out, I've been releasing videos about a potential UK house price crash. Yet the latest figures from all of the various HPIs, the house price indices in the UK, don't seem to support what I'm saying. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at in this video. Take a look at some of these headline figures and maybe why they aren't painting the full picture, and why I'm still very confident that we are just at the start of a much bigger crash and that house prices are only heading in one direction. So up first, we have the latest HPI from Halifax. This was published this morning. And there are two pieces of data really that you want to focus on in this report. That is the monthly change and the annual change. Let me scroll down. So the average house price month on month fell by 0.3% in July, which was the fourth consecutive monthly decline, which comes after the mini bounce we saw at the start of the year when there was some renewed optimism when mortgage rates started to soften slightly. And annually, property prices dropped by 2.4% on an annual basis, easing from 2.6% in June. So actually annually, on an annual basis, house prices aren't dropping as quickly this month as they were last month. And if you look at the other HPIs nationwide, okay, it's a little bit worse at minus 3.8 on a year-on-year basis. The official ONS figures are still actually positive year-on-year, but they lag heavily, so don't read too much into that. These are almost certainly going to be going negative as well as they catch up with Halifax and nationwide. And then we have Rightmove, which is, remember, is only asking prices for new instructions. It doesn't include existing listings being reduced on Rightmove. We're actually up 0.5% year on year. So if we put our bias to one side, as the chances are, if you're watching this video, you want to see a house price crash. I'm making this video, I'd like to see a house price crash. If I park that bias and just look at these cold hard stats, it certainly doesn't look like crash territory, does it? But I think the headline figures maybe don't paint the full picture. Yes, we are a year into it, but the housing market is like a massive oil tanker that takes so long to turn around. And we need to look at the overall trend and try and put that into some sort of perspective. So let's take Halifax as an example here. 12 months ago in July 2022, let me just make this a fraction bigger for you guys. 12 months ago, annual house price growth was just under 12%. Now it's currently negative 2.4%. So that's around about a 14% change in direction. And if we go to nationwide and look at the same thing, if we go back to when, they've got June here on the graph, which is just under 4%. So if we go back to June last year, they were at 10%. So nationwide are also showing a 14% turnaround in the direction of the housing market. Now, if you just look at the headline figure, which is down 2.4% annually, that doesn't sound like much. But when you say house prices have changed in direction by 14% in 12 months, and you can see the obvious trend here, the blue line, it is certainly heading down. And after we saw the little spike in the spring, things are starting to head back down as well on the short term, on the more shorter time frames as well. So that's why I'm extremely confident we are still heading down. We've had this little blip and the overall trend is down. Now, if you imagine this was inflation, imagine how this would be reported. If inflation suddenly went, what have we got at the moment? If the inflation suddenly went from about 8%, changed direction by 14% and went to negative 0.6%. This time in 12 months, when they're saying it's negative 6% next year, they're saying inflation has been absolutely smashed to bits. Or even if we go back to where the peak was, let's start here, about 12%. If inflation was negative 2% 12 months from that point, they would be saying that inflation has been crushed. Yet as it's the housing market, it's turned around by 14%, but the market's being surprisingly resilient. So you have to put it into perspective. The overall trend is down. And the very simple reason why I'm still extremely confident that this is still going to continue to head down over the next year or two is this. This is the interest rate. So the Bank of England at the last meeting got to 5.25%. And one thing's important to note there, the next meeting now is not till the 21st of September. And there's every chance, unless the CPI data, the inflation data is extremely positive in August, they're probably going to do another 0.25% at least, which would take us to 5.5%. Now, if you imagine going back 12 months, even if you spoke to the most optimistic person in the housing market, if you'd have said to them the interest rates are going to hit 5.5% potentially next year, they wouldn't have believed you. So to be at 5.25% already, with potentially one more to come, maybe worse, we don't know. We might peak here, depending on what inflation does. But many people in the market never imagined it was going to get to this point. But we are here now, and we're going to be here for a little while, because the next meeting's in September. They're definitely not cutting in September. So it's very likely we're heading into 2024 at either 5.25, 5.5, or maybe 5.75 if we get some bad inflation data. And the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of this damage has yet to be felt. Only around, I think it's just over 100,000 people per month remortgage away from the fixed rates that are around 2 to 2.5% onto the next new fixed rates, which could be anywhere from kind of 5 to 7%, depending on your LTV and depending on who you're going with. So there's a lot of that pain still to be felt. And when these people are remortgaging, there is such a huge amount of money being sucked out of the economy from their monthly payments. And I tweeted about this a while back. I put together this, which showed how a monthly payment would be impacted depending if you were mortgaged at 2% versus 6%. And basically the monthly payment went up by 50%. So you imagine all of these mortgaged homeowners out there, not all of them, as they'll all be hit in a different way, but on average, if their monthly payment is going up 50%, there's so much money being sucked out of the UK economy that would have been spent on products and services. So businesses are going to really, really struggle. And this also applies to lets as well. Rentals are up 10% annually, and even more than that over the past couple of years. So again, there's another huge chunk of money being sucked out of the economy that isn't being spent on businesses, that isn't being spent on products or services, which only leads to one thing, and that is recession. And UK GDP has been going sideways for the past couple of years anyway. So we are facing economic gloom. I won't say doom, we're on the verge of doom, but we're certainly facing economic gloom. And with a weak economy, there is no way that will sustain the house prices as they currently are. And with no signs of growth on the horizon for the UK economy, okay, inflation may continue to come down, but interest rates aren't going to be coming down quickly anytime soon. So I just don't see any way we don't see a full-blown recession with a full-blown UK house price crash. So that's where I still am on things. Even if the headline figures may suggest things aren't doing too bad at the moment, I genuinely believe it's just a matter of time, and buyers that are patient are the ones that will see the biggest rewards. Now, in last week's video, I talked about the housing market cycle and where I believe we are in this cycle. If you haven't seen this video yet, I'm going to pop it up in front of me, and I'll see you guys over there.